Hey, welcome to Impress the Boss. I'm Catherine.
I'm Laurel.
And I'm Valerie.
And we're here to help you stand out without working overtime. This week, we're focused on Bob-Ullet. If you don't know who our workplace characters, the Bobs, are, check out episode 17, where we do a deep dive into how the characters came about and what they represent. So this week, we'll review who Bob-Ullet is, give you a overview. We'll also meet a workplace expert who will talk to us a little bit more about the Bob-Ullets, and then we'll have a takeaway and a tip for you this week to put into action. So Bob-Ullet, as a reminder, we talked about Bob-Ullet last season. And it always is a little weird translating this verbally. It's really a mullet. Like we want a Bob with a mullet. And that is just such an iconic image, of the 70s and the 80s and, the business in front and party in the back and what that type of personality really represents. And I think this personality is really important in the workplace. They bring a lot of fun, a lot of party, a lot of joking, a lot of laughter to the workplace. Mm-hmm. But one of the challenges for this particular Bob is that, they might be so focused on having fun that sometimes the work just doesn't get executed, especially in a culture right now where it's just so hard to execute. It's hard to get anything done. We're so distracted that sometimes that type of personality just can add to the distraction instead of really helping us to get to execute on our work. So today, when you'll hear from our guest, he really brings a lot of good points around this particular type of Bob and how this Bob can flourish in the workplace. So if you're a Bob-Ullet, this is for you. If you work with Bob-Ullets, this is great feedback for you too. If you manage Bob-Ullets, this is even better for you. So Laurel, tell us a little bit about who we're going to meet today.
Yeah, so our guest this week, we are so excited to have Dr. Todd Greer with us. And we're pretty sure that there is not anything that this man cannot do. He has been a successful professor, pastor, business owner, so many different things, coach as well, nonprofit director, the list goes on and on. Most currently, he is serving as the Vice President of Academic Affairs with the University of Mobile. And that is all just on the professional side of his life. He also is extremely active in his community. He serves on multiple boards for nonprofit organizations. And he also is a very faithful family man with a beautiful wife and 2 daughters. And we love him. We love his style.
He's amazing.
You're going to love his style. He, in most times when you interact with Todd, he is wearing a bow tie and he brings a dry wit flair with him with that bow tie as well. So we're very excited to have Dr. Todd Greer as our guest today. So please listen in as we interview Todd.
Hi, Todd. Thanks for joining us on Impress the Boss. We're so happy to have you. This interview is a little unique for us because all 3 of us know you and have had the pleasure of studying with you and experiencing your charming personality and getting an opportunity to see you grow and journey throughout your career. So thanks for joining us today.
Absolutely. My pleasure. It's unique to be able to engage in a conversation and have 3 people throwing me questions at a time. But if it's any 3 people, it's going to be the 3 of you guys. So
thank you.
We'll make it as easy.
Oh, yeah. We won't be too hard on you.
So today, as you know, we're talking about Bob-Ullet. And Bob-Ullet is this very, fun personality, but also has some serious struggles on the back end and being able to get business done. And so in your experience in working with other Bob-Ullets, what have you seen as one of the major pitfalls of this type of personality?
Sure. First thing, I do really want to point out, and this is kind of awkward here to be the bald guy talking about one of the greatest haircuts of all time. So it's awkward, but we're going to go into this. We'll push through. So thank you.
Bald but handsome. Still.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt. It's making a comeback and it's legit. So, I think one of the interesting pitfalls that I see in the Bob-Ullet is, it's such a fun personality and such a desire to really you do have something up front, that business in the front, party in the back. And so we kind of take that for granted sometimes, but we forget sometimes what sits underneath that. And I think a lot of times Bob-Ullet suffers from the desire to be liked. And sometimes when we live in this world of work and our desire is just to be liked by everybody, we tend to fall into some traps. And so we fall into traps of pursuing the like more than pursuing the job well done. And so we come across as really caring, really likable, really good interpersonally, but sometimes we miss the teeth of the work that we're trying to accomplish. And so I think that's probably one of the biggest things that I've seen with some Bob-Ullets, including myself early in the days, is just trying to remember that it's not the most important thing in the world to be liked. Being liked is important, but you can't be liked at the expense of doing job well done. And so that's really that fight that I think we all deal with, because we want to be liked, we want to be in relationship, but understanding that, I don't have to go out and do these things to be liked and to do a good work here at my office. I really need to pour into that. And by pouring into that, I'll be respected. So I'd rather be respected than liked.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, that's so good. So about on the opposite side of that, what would you say for Bob-Ullets is their biggest strength that they should really lean into in the workplace?
Yeah, I think it's an important question to always ask. What is the strength that sits alongside it as well? And so when I look at the Bobs, those Bob-Ullets, they are people who really do positively impact culture. And I think we spend a lot of time now talking about culture, and it's quite easy in the midst of the metrics and the performance measurements and reviews and assessments and just that stress that we all live in, because we don't live in a 9-to-5 world now. We live in a midnight to midnight world where every day is going and churning. But to remember that Bob-Ullet is really that one that's not afraid to walk down the hall and be like, hey, high five. Awesome. Good to see you. What you doing? What you having for lunch today? Do you want to trade snacks? That Bob-Ullet is the one that really is going to engage in the workplace. And they're gonna liven people up. And I think that's that fun-loving aspect that every organization needs it. My brother and I have had this conversation before, and we call this the glue guy. It's as a former athlete, I was never the star of the team, but I was the guy. If I was on the bench, I was going to make sure that we had, a lot of fun cheering the squad on as we were on the bench. So it's that cheerleader in costume that's out there in the office that doesn't mind coming behind people and just saying, yeah, that's great. Or let's celebrate people's birthdays, because you know what, as individuals, man, we do care about ourselves, and it's nice to be loved and celebrated. And so Bob-Ullet really does bring that to the table. And that's one thing that even in the midst of sometimes the challenges that Bob faces, we can't overlook the positive that he brings.
That's right. Right. So good. Thank you.
And going off of that, Todd, great stuff. Thank you. What do you think is the number one tip that you would like to share for the Bob-Ullets in the workplace in the organization?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that I would tell Bob-Ullet is take your work seriously, but don't take yourself too seriously. And I think this tends to be a challenge that we sometimes get. You see those people that are so uptight at work, and we all know who they are. And I don't know if there's another Bob out there that fits this, but they're really uptight at work, and they get really stuffy about things. And it's the you must call me Dr. Greer every time you refer to me. And here I am amongst doctors, doctor. Okay? That's the thing I think that we have to be really careful about. So Bob-Ullet brings that nice personality to the table, but I don't want Bob to get so caught up in that liked personality and having fun in his own self that he doesn't take his work seriously. So Bob-Ullet, please focus, because one of the things that will happen is when you move from that idea of being liked to being respect, people are going to recognize your personality. They're going to recognize your charm, but they're going to pour into you, and they're going to see you grow forward in the organization. And I think that probably is one of the things that Bob-Ullet lacks sometimes, is that people want to promote him because people look at him and they say, yeah, Bob's great. He's fun to be around, but is he really management material? Is he really somebody that takes responsibility seriously? Is he really somebody that when the quote game is on the line, that we want the ball in Bob's hands because we know he's gonna do a job well done? And so that's probably that piece that I would say is take your work seriously, even if you don't take yourself too seriously, but never let taking yourself, in a comical manner or a culture and fun manner overwhelm the fact that you've got a job to do and that you need to go out there and execute. Because when you execute, you'll have the right to wear funky socks. You'll have the right, to make practical jokes at work. You'll have the right to do that in an appropriate manner. And I think maybe that's something that's worth even touching on there, Val, is, understanding with Bob-Ullet, the hairdo is kind of classic. It was really coming to birth in the 70s and 80s. And sometimes that Bob-Ullet personality harkens back a little bit to the 70s and 80s. And it's remembering things like, just because you're having fun doesn't mean everybody else is having fun with what you do. So make sure you understand the people that surround you. So don't go into joking and playing jokes on people and create an offense. Don't be the sexist, misogynistic bigot that makes the jokes that, oh, I'm just joking. Be the person that is liked and respected, but because you get a job well done and because you lift other people up. And so I think that's where Bob-Ullet's if he's gonna get ahead, it's because he's gonna do those things and he's gonna leave the other things in the past, just like he needs to leave that haircut in the past.
Thank you, Todd. Such great feedback for today. We appreciate you speaking into the Bob-Ullets of our show, and look forward to continuing to see your journey as well, and appreciate the time. Thanks.
Thank you.
Wow, that was just fantastic. I just enjoy so much just the personable effect that Dr. Greer gives, and his feedback regarding Bob-Ullets is just right, smack on. Do you just believe everything that he shared? There's just
so many points.
So many great points. I think the number one takeaway that I get from this interview is that we do live in a society where I think we need to have that balance between execution and play. And because sometimes we can just be so intense at work because we have so much to do, so much to get done, and we kind of forget sometimes the importance of having play, having that play time, and just having that culture that Todd just so brilliantly brought to our attention, that a Bob-Ullet brings a playfulness into a culture. And with that playfulness, it kind of brings less of that stress mode and allows the culture to just not be so stiff. But another takeaway, too, that Todd also brought to our attention is to be able to get it done. I think Bob-Ullets, as he's mentioned in his interview, that they can bring that playfulness into a culture, but sometimes they might be overlooked for that job position to be moved up, as a manager or so forth in an organization because of their playfulness. But as Todd also encouraged Bob-Ullets to get it done, to be playful, but at the same time, make sure you do execute and win that respect of those around you because you are getting your work done. Yeah. So just a great interview with Dr. Greer. We appreciate him. We love him.
I think what's interesting about what Todd said, Valerie, is this idea of focus and distraction. That sometimes when we turn to things that make us laugh, it could be a distraction, and it also could be a stress reliever. So that balance between when is it appropriate within a workplace to have fun and joy and laughter and joking and things of that nature, and when do you just have to focus and get things done. And that mastering the focus piece really applies to every single Bob. Yeah. Every single person right now is extremely distracted in the workplace. And how do we go from one meeting to the next meeting to a half-hour break to the next meeting to an hour break to even do any productive work? It's focus and execution, but we can't forget that joy and that playfulness as well.
Right. And I think at the end of the day, we need in our workforces and our organizations the Bob-Ullets. We need them to bring that balance with getting things done at work with the execution, and at the same time bringing in that playfulness and that playtime to help us not be so serious about who we are or our jobs. And so
Such a great action item for all of us. Again, as you said, not just the Bob-Ullets, but for everyone of that, the balance of the play and the execution.
Yeah. So thanks for joining us this week and hearing a little bit more about Bob-Ullet. If you are a Bob-Ullet or if you work with a Bob-Ullet or manage a Bob-Ullet, we'd love to hear your thoughts on social, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, #ImpressTheBoss. Look forward to hearing your stories and what's happening in your journey and how you've managed your tips on managing to balance playfulness and work. And you'll definitely want to follow Todd on social, and that's Todd Greer, Greer, to get some more insight into him and his family. Thanks for tuning in. Don't forget to follow us on social for your daily standout tips, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, and don't forget to use the #ImpressTheBoss and share your journey with us. And until next time, Bob's out.